Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go after the lefts, we go after the rights, we go after the middle and independents, we go after all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything. And you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on. It's going to be fun.
Alright guys, today's date, October 6, 2021, and this is How the Frack We Got Here. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan. I'm your host with the most Will Buchanan, and somehow still making it through this intro. On How the Frack We Got Here, we do take the events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. Before I do get started, we try to be a family-friendly podcast and watch your language, but sometimes words do fly. At the same time, there may be things that are shown that might be a little too intense for younger viewers, so viewer discretion is advised. Aside from that, welcome. So, let's go ahead and get into it. I should actually got a t-shirt on that doesn't have Superman all over it, but it should say I survived the Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp blackout of 2021 for 8 hours.
Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg has responded to the whistleblower's testimony on Capitol Hill.
The former Facebook employee claiming the social media giant knew its app.
Whoops. Actually, let's try this again.
Familiar feeds finally back up and running this morning after a global outage nearly 6 hours long that knocked out not just Facebook, but Instagram and WhatsApp, which Facebook owns. The impact, huge. Facebook's platform has 3.5 billion active users around the world. In some countries, Facebook and WhatsApp can often be the main way to stay in touch, and some Americans use Facebook to sign into websites, apps, and services like smart TVs. Its CEO, Mark Zuckerberg, writing, "Sorry for the disruption today. I know how much you rely on our services to stay connected with the people you care about."
I can't stress enough how remarkable it is, how unusual it is. I mean, how many small businesses rely on Facebook? How many medium-sized, large businesses rely on Facebook? How many families rely on WhatsApp groups to speak around the world?
The scramble to restore service coming after a major technical glitch. A Facebook official tells NBC News the underlying cause of the outage affected internal systems, making it harder to diagnose and resolve the problem. And because the company's servers were not able to communicate, those problems cascaded. This official says no user data was compromised. That massive outage, just one of the competing crises for Facebook. Today, a whistleblower is set to testify against the company on Capitol Hill after sharing explosive allegations Sunday on 60 Minutes.
Facebook over and over again has shown it chooses profit over safety.
Frances Haugen, who worked at Facebook until May, going public with what she describes as Facebook's dangerous disregard for safety, lack of transparency, and spread of hateful, divisive content.
My hope is that Frances Haugen's courageous, credible performance last night will encourage other whistleblowers to come forward. Facebook is no longer entitled to a shred of trust.
A Facebook spokesperson responding to Haugen's allegations says, in part, protecting our community is more important than maximizing our profits. To say we turn a blind eye to feedback ignores these investments, including the 40,000 people working on safety and security at Facebook.
So, Hallie, we heard from the whistleblower on 60 Minutes. What?
Okay, sorry about that. Little snafu in the programming lineup. But yes, for what? 8 hours yesterday, folks couldn't access Facebook or Instagram or WhatsApp. Now, if you're like me and even though this is being broadcasted on Facebook and on YouTube, life went on. I mean, books still worked. I mean, gyms still worked. I mean, everything short of social media was still working fine. Even Twitter was sitting there saying, we never had this problem. But it does bring up a wonderful point that a lot of small businesses, even corporations, do rely on Facebook for their businesses, for their advertisements, things of that nature. It completely makes sense that a lot of people were kind of freaking out about the downtime. But it also brings up an interesting story that we're going into that, yes, that did run in 60 Minutes over the weekend. And, of course, I did play a little bit of that clip where a Facebook whistleblower decided to come forward and actually say that, yes, Facebook is the actually corrupted tyrant that we know it to be. That we never thought that Facebook, Facebook puts profit over young people's mental health and things of that nature? No. That's not the reason why Mark Zuckerberg is rich. But it does bring up a wonderful point, because that's actually what the next story is going into, is basically her testimony and what she has said about Facebook and the damaging allegations and what Zuckerberg has tried to say about the situation.
Breaking news overnight, Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg has responded to the whistleblower's testimony on Capitol Hill.
The former Facebook employee claiming the social media giant knew its apps could cause harm to some of its youngest users. Senior national correspondent Terry Moran is there in Washington for us. Good morning, Terry.
Good morning, Robin. Frances Haugen, the Facebook whistleblower, came to Congress on a mission to change Facebook and other social media giants, and she painted a stark picture for senators of Facebook as a company with tremendous power and little sense of responsibility. This morning, Mark Zuckerberg is breaking his silence, issuing a statement on Facebook that the claims brought by the company's former employee Frances Haugen don't make any sense, adding, at the heart of these accusations is the idea that we prioritize profit over safety and well-being. That's just not true.
I believe Facebook's products harm children, stoke division, and weaken our democracy.
Haugen appearing before a Senate subcommittee on Tuesday, alleging the company is operating in the shadows and hiding its research from public scrutiny.
They have put their astronomical profits before people. Congressional action is needed. They won't solve this crisis without your help.
A former product manager, Haugen, who worked in civic integrity, says the company knew about the harmful effect caused by its apps, including Instagram's potential toxic effect on teen girls, and did nothing.
I would like to emphasize one of the documents that we sent in on problematic use examined the rates of problematic use by age, and that peaked with 14-year-olds. They say explicitly, I feel bad when I use Instagram, and yet I can't stop.
All of which she lays squarely at the feet of Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg.
Mark holds a very unique role in the tech industry in that he holds over 55% of all the voting shares for Facebook. There's no one currently holding Mark accountable but himself.
The buck stops with him.
The buck stops with him.
Facebook calls Haugen's claims inaccurate, but agrees it's time to begin to create standard rules for the internet. Do you think Frances Haugen was lying to Congress today?
I think that she misrepresented the issues that she testified about. And, you know, she didn't work on these issues at Facebook, and I think that she's mischaracterized a lot of the documents that she stole.
Frances Haugen also called on senators to make specific changes in the law to get more transparency into Facebook and other companies' internal data and decision-making on safety issues, and more regulation, maybe even a federal agency to oversee these social media giants. Facebook has also called for strengthening laws around social media, but after Frances Haugen's testimony, they may not like what they get.
Okay, so you say she's incorrect about what she's saying, but you turn around and say, like, well, maybe we need to start collecting rules. Hypocrite much? Case in point, guys, Facebook is, unfortunately, it's a tyrant. It's a monopoly. It may take a lot for it to be brought down. This is true. Should it be brought down? Yes, for multiple instances, because they have allowed a lot to go through. I'm currently right now fighting a hate speech because of a comment I said about women and hypocrites, and I am facing a hate speech violation. A hate speech violation for hate speech. That just goes to show you that Facebook needs a lot of adjustments, and that, you know, saying that 48,000 people are working on safety and security, hard to believe that when your whole system goes down for 8 hours. Sounds like ransomware, and it sounds like a cyber attack to me. But hey, what do I know? I don't work at Facebook, but I guarantee there's going to be a lot of NDAs being signed at Facebook now. There's going to be an NDA agreement going out there saying, if you get fired, you do not talk about our company whatsoever. I can't validate that, but if I was Facebook and I was their legal department, they would be getting issued out immediately. Just my 2 cents on it. But we'll follow that story as it goes along. The next story I got, guys, is basically something that I, have been following, especially with those white supremacist terrorists that decide to go ahead and infiltrate a government building on January 6th. I'm calling them terrorists because they are. They're not rioters. They're terrorists. You basically went against the country. You're a terrorist. That being said, Merrick Garland, the new AG, is defending criticisms against how these people are being charged. You gotta remember, almost everybody that we see in the news is that's being charged for the attempted coup is getting lesser penalties. We're not actually seeing a lot of jail time. Quote unquote, Merrick Garland did say that prosecutors involved in the case are making determinations in every case about what charge fits the offense, what charge fits the law. When he was asked about those criticisms, he did ask which came from outside observers, at least one of the judges presiding over the cases. Because I'm going to be honest, guys, a lot of these terrorists that are actually being brought up on charges are very rarely seeing jail time. Keep in mind what they did. They basically raided a government facility without permission, destroyed property, stolen property. Some of them, I remember the person that took Pelosi's laptop off her desk from her office. And let's not forget the multiple police officers, not just the 6 who testified in front of Congress, are also facing mental distinguished pain and anguish and over that. And yet a lot of these so-called patriots, and I say patriots very loosely, are seeing very little jail time. Or none at all, actually. Some of them are actually seeing misdemeanor crimes. It's a little hard to sit there and stomach that maybe, just maybe, that we're not able to get them under the Patriot Act. Since this is what the Patriot Act was basically made for, is the fact of the matter is they should be treated as enemy combatants of the state. And again, we're not seeing that. Now, that could be because we are dealing with a lot of Trump's red tape. Keep in mind, Trump did appoint a crapload of judges into the lower courts, not just the Supreme Courts, which could also be coming up the works. I'm just saying it's a little unfair because had Black Lives Matter and other minority protesters did the same thing, you'd be seeing jail time. That's all I'm saying. But we'll follow that story as well as that develops. Moving right along, guys. Again, I keep saying this. I have said this once, and I'll say this again about the working conditions of the U.S. If things do not improve, strikes are bound to happen. Especially recently with Kellogg's. As of today, they have went on strike. So if you're expecting Frosted Flakes, you're going to be waiting a while.
Kellogg workers in the U.S. are on strike. 1,400 workers stopped work at factories in Battle Creek, Omaha, Lancaster, and Memphis Tuesday. The union said it's asking for a fair contract for workers and claims Kellogg's demanded workers give up health care, retirement benefits, and holiday and vacation pay. Work stopped at plants that make iconic brands like Frosted Flakes, Raisin Bran, and Corn Flakes. Kellogg's told Reuters it is implementing contingency plans to deal with potential supply disruptions.
Yes, contingency plans probably mean they're going to try to hire replacement workers or day staff or things of that nature. This is why I keep saying people are one. This is the reason exactly why I simply say unions work. This is why I sit there and say if there's not a union where you work, or if there is a union, you should join it. If there's not a union, you should form it. Corporations hate unions because for this very reason. Keep in mind, Kellogg's people were already working around the clock, very few days off, some of them working 7 days a week. At the same time, now that their employer is asking for them to give up benefits that they are so rightly earned, for what? Because profits haven't went down, executive benefits haven't went down, but like most things, they want to kick the cost down to the lowest man on the totem pole. So I don't blame the workers for going on strike. Because I wanted the same thing for Amazon. I wanted the same thing for Walmart. I wanted the same thing for all these retail giants, these retail and box stores to finally get the hint. Because what this pandemic has shown a lot of people is that you don't have to break your back or work yourself to death for a meaningful wage. You should be able to work a job. And I know a lot of people say, well, my day, our job, I used to go to college, I used to pay for a home. Yes, because the economy actually worked with you. Not try to work the work out of you, or not try to work you like a government mule. That's what the whole thing was. At the same time, the wages actually met with the productivity of the economy at the time. Whereas now a CEO in America makes 400 times more than what their employee makes. Again, I'm not mad at those workers. I'm hoping they actually get some not only get their benefits, hopefully they get more bump in pay, because they keep on saying contingency plans. What contingency plans? Because the only thing you can do with a factory where the workers don't work is that you hire replacement staff or you go overseas. One of the two. And Kellogg cannot afford to go overseas. Not when those tax brackets that the Biden administration is about to change. So we will definitely see where it goes from there on that note. Also, AstraZeneca may be entering the COVID booster race as they are now preparing a proposal to send the FDA for emergency sanctions for their COVID booster vaccine. That's a lot.
Asking the FDA for emergency authorization for its COVID-19 antibody treatment. If approved, it would be the first long-acting drug for people with compromised immune systems who don't get enough protection from vaccination. Steve Osensami has the latest for us.
There's some hope this morning in the new forecast from the CDC. The scientists in Atlanta are sharing that the number of COVID cases, hospitalizations, and fatalities are expected to fall over the next 2 weeks. But the numbers will still be painful, with 22,000 Americans expected to die from COVID these next 2 weeks, down from 26,000 people over the 2 weeks prior.
In order to avoid any subsequent resurges, it would be very important to get a lot more people vaccinated.
The White House is trying to celebrate the positive, announcing on Tuesday that 76% of Americans 12 and older have gotten at least one shot. And the Department of Health and Human Services is out with a new report saying that COVID vaccines kept more than 250,000 seniors from getting sick. Also, the drug companies are making new tools. Drug maker AstraZeneca is asking for emergency FDA authorization of its antibody treatment to help prevent COVID-19. Antibodies have often been used to treat people who've already gotten sick, but this would help prevent disease for high-risk Americans with compromised immune systems.
This is not in place of the vaccines. Really important. This is an additional layer of therapy that we have.
Health officials say they need to remind everyone that thousands of Americans are still dying every day, with now 700,000 dead since the pandemic began. We're seeing more proof every day about more and more companies that are requiring their employees to get vaccinated and aren't kidding. One of the
Okay, I just wanted to cut that short because it basically goes into employers are requesting or actually mandating vaccine requirements, which they should. I've been saying that in multiple podcasts that vaccine requirements are needed because COVID cases are still high. ICU capacities across the state are still high. And that, yes, and for anybody to actually join the rest of us as far as getting back to some sense of normalcy, get the vaccine and get the vaccine booster when it comes available. Of course, with AstraZeneca, that's a weird name for a company, by the way. AstraZeneca actually joined that race. We now have multiple vaccines and boosters, even though AstraZeneca is still seeking FDA emergency sanctions. They are not FDA approved like Pfizer is. So we will follow that story as well as it goes along. But again, I like the fact that we are now starting to, it kind of feels like we're turning a corner. It really is with this. But it only turns a corner if everybody jumps on the train with us. So if you haven't got that already, what's your excuse? Moving right along, guys, I did actually want to get this one as well because, again, I know this is going to be about a couple of Democrats I can't stand. But here's the thing about protesting. You can protest all you want. You have your right to protest. But there's sometimes a time and a place. Like, basically bombarding a person in a bathroom trying to get your point across, that's a little far.
That's how divisive our politics have become. Protesters confronted a U.S. senator in the stall of a bathroom, demanding she support the president's infrastructure plan. And now there's another high-stakes deadline looming in Washington, which could impact the finances of every American family. Here's ABC's Dan Lieberman.
Actually, I am heading out.
This morning, police are investigating video that shows protesters following Senator Kristen Sinema into a bathroom at Arizona State University where she teaches. The protesters are heard demanding she fall in line with other Senate Democrats. ABC News is not airing the video. Sinema saying, quote, "These individuals filmed and publicly posted videos of my students without their permission, including footage taken of both my students and I using a restroom." Sinema and fellow Democrat Joe Manchin have refused to support the Democrats' $3.5 trillion infrastructure bill, saying it's too expensive. Protesters in kayaks also confronted Senator Manchin at his houseboat in Washington.
Can all West Virginians wave at Senator Manchin, please?
the White House calling those demonstrations inappropriate and unacceptable, even as President Biden singled out Manchin and Sinema when discussing the lack of progress on the bill.
I've been able to close a deal on 99% of my party. Two people.
Meanwhile, there's another challenge facing lawmakers. The U.S. is on track to default on the national.
And I just wanted to cover that as well because, again, it's interesting when you sit there and you hear Joe. He's like, of course, I've said this before. My words got crossed. I apologize. Look, I can't stand Catherine Sinema. I can't stand Joe Manchin. Unfortunately, we have to talk about them because they're the only two roadblocks that are actually keeping us from passing legislation that should have been passed a long time ago. That being said, I get the fact that Arizonians want to press their senator, as they should. But confronting her in a bathroom, look, your classroom's open season. I'm not going to argue that. Classroom is open season. Classroom is open season. It's a public place. If you get confronted there, then that's on you. That being said, however, a bathroom, come on now. I can't condone that just because, number one, it's a bathroom. You ever been in a bathroom? We all been in bathrooms. That's a personal time to work out whatever you need to work out. Nobody wants to sit there at a time when you really need to go and you get accosted by protesters. I don't care what side of the road you're on. When you're in the bathroom, that's your piece. Now, outside the bathroom, open season. But once you're in the bathroom, no, it's just something you just don't do. Not from a protesting standpoint, because now you're borderline. You're crossing into harassment at that point. And don't get me wrong, I get the fact I'm not trying to discourage anybody from sitting there saying, because I said all the time, press your Congress people, press the people that you elected in to actually have them stand up to what they said they were going to do. I completely understand that. But again, the bathroom though. I mean, Catherine Sinema is definitely following Joe Manchin's path of just being in the middle and, being there. It's almost like a Marjorie Taylor Greene for Democrats. It's outside of her not saying anything. She's just mute. But again, it's just no point in protesting or accosting someone in a place where you really don't want to. I'm just saying. Just certain things that don't need to be done. But moving right along, guys, I did want to catch this story as well. This is actually a follow-up to a story that I posted. It might have been a few months ago, where I said an individual that worked for Tesla was suing Tesla for harassment. And today, he won.
Has ordered Tesla to shell out nearly $137 million to Owen Diaz, a former employee, after he sued the company over a racist and hostile work environment. He's one of several people to bring a case against the company. NBC News Now correspondent Priscilla Thompson spoke to Diaz about what he says he endured at Tesla and what pushed him over the edge.
Like a weight lifted off my shoulder.
Validation and relief now setting in for Owen Diaz after a federal jury in San Francisco ordered Tesla pay him nearly $137 million for racial abuse on the job. Abuse that Diaz says is rampant.
I'm just the tip of the iceberg.
Diaz was contracted as an elevator operator at the electric car company's Fremont plant in the Bay Area for 9 months in 2015 and 2016.
What kind of harassment did you experience there over the course of the 9 months that you worked there?
The N-word scratched into the bathroom stalls. They were calling me a clerk's monkey and the Spanish version of the N-word. This other guy was getting on the elevator with me and he was telling me, Ian, hurry up and push the button. You Ians are lazy.
Diaz says he became a target for write-ups after he began reporting the abuse. But it was after his 19-year-old son took a job at the factory that he decided something had to change.
I was taking him lunch and he had a Caucasian supervisor called telling him, I can't stand all you effing N's. So at this point, my son was looking for me for help. At that moment, my son had saw break me. I just had to live with that decision that I made to take them in that factory. That's the biggest mistake I ever made in my life.
Diaz and his son are no longer among the roughly 10,000 employees working at the factory. Tesla has denied knowledge of racist conduct at the plant, but this week, a jury awarded Diaz $6.9 million for emotional distress and $130 million in punitive damages. Tesla did not respond to NBC's request for comment. In a note sent to employees after the ruling, Tesla's head of human resources downplayed Diaz's claims, citing, among other things, employees who testified that racial slurs, including the N-word, were used in a, quote, friendly manner, and usually by African-American colleagues, and that the company was responsive to Diaz's complaints, firing 2 contractors and suspending another, adding, quote, while we strongly believe that these facts don't justify the verdict reached by the jury in San Francisco, we do recognize that in 2015 and 2016, we were not perfect. We're still not perfect, but we have come a long way from 5 years ago.
When you see Tesla's response, do you think they learned a lesson?
No, it's another way of these companies, if they don't get their way, of blaming the victim.
Now, it took the jury roughly 4 hours to rule in favor of Diaz, making him the second person this year to win a discrimination case against Tesla. Another former black employee won a $1 million judgment back in May. The company also has a pending civil lawsuit dating back to 2017 that claims Tesla breeds.
Crazy, isn't it? $137 million, which rightfully that man should have. Actually, should have more. But it's the response afterwards that, well, it really wasn't racist. It was the fact of, well, other African Americans were using it in a friendly manner. You're a corporation. You don't get to use the other black people were saying it excuse as a way of saying, well, it's the environment they created. No, it's not. As a company, you should have a zero tolerance. As a company, a corporation, mind you, you should have a zero tolerance for this type of thing. That eventually, that, you know, like that man said and what he endured, and the fact that, you know, thankfully the jury did see fit to agree with this man, and that Tesla, again, that's 2. Like I said, that's 2 now discrimination charges, 2 discrimination lawsuits, and awardings out they've done. People still think Tesla has, it's like we've come a long way in 5 years. Not long enough, because I can tell you off the bat, you must have nobody in legal that's going to sit there and say, wait a minute, read back the public statement you want to give out to these people? And this is what you want to say? That, oh, well, it's not really racist because other black people have said it. Yeah. And yet they wonder, see, the thing about it is why I say black people, that's why I say black people are finding a place to go. This is the reason why I say it's not why black people are lazy, because that's the thing they always want to say when it comes to job markets, which is the story I'm about to go into next. Again, about the disparity that, you know, that even though we are recovering somewhat from the pandemic, it's again, why are black workers having such an issue? I mean, literally and figuratively, the graph that the NBC has. This is actually the graph which comes from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, right? Keep in mind, this is going back from all the way from 2019 almost up to current. Now, if you notice something, if we were to kind of, I mean, we can only go up to July, but July-wise, we're still hovering. Unemployment rates for black people, which is that yellow line there, we're still hovering somewhere between 8 and 9%. 8 and 9%. That should say a lot that we were still high. Every other demographic has actually went down. You can almost sit there and say, for most white folks, they're actually about to be below 5%. I think the magenta color is Asian. Oh, there we go. So, I mean, look, even in June 2021, which was not that too far, I mean, 4 months ago, but still, black people, 9.2%, white people, 5.2%, Asians, 5.8%, Hispanics, 7.4%. Now, that was just in June. That was just in July of this year. So July was 3 months ago. But again, I have to ask this question, and I still ask this question, because why is it that an educated black person has a harder time finding employment than, let's just say, a white person with a high school diploma? But it's amazing the lack of answers. The lack of answers. Because corporate, I mean, when asked, it's like, we know it's discrimination. And I said, when you see that kind of stuff, the only thing that most companies sit there and say is discrimination. And this is what I'm trying to point out. It is definitely discrimination. Keep in mind, we just came from Tesla. Tesla is a Forbes 100 company. They just had now two. This was now marking the second discrimination lawsuit that they've tried and lost. And yet, you don't see any other ethnic group bring up discriminations against these companies. I mean, it happens everywhere. But again, I just ask this question: discrimination, inequality. What other reason is there? Because corporations are majestically silent on this. Because let's be honest, and I'm just speaking this from a personal standpoint, I pretty much believe corporations out there that are currently sitting with most of their boards looking like a jar of Miracle Whip do not want a person like me on the same level as them. That is my personal belief. Because almost every time, and I'm an IT person, so every time I try to apply for anything, this is just a personal testimony. If I apply for help desk at any IT company, I'm in. Oh, we like the way you sound. We like your expertise. We like all this. You're very knowledgeable. Let me apply for management, project manager. Let me apply for an area to where my skills will help me get over that color barrier. Oh, trust and believe the color barrier is there. I mean, yes, I have locks. This is true, but this here, this is that's where the wall is for a lot of African Americans. We have to, and I hate to say it like this, but it's just like Scandal. Even though Scandal is a completely made up show by Shonda Rhimes, that one part where he sat there and told his daughter, you have to be twice as good to get half of what they want or to even be acknowledged. Damn. Sometimes art imitates life. But I still, like I said before, explain to me, because they always keep on saying, oh, there's plenty of jobs out here. No, there's plenty of crappy jobs. Crappy jobs will always be available because nobody works a crappy job for long. Everybody has to work a job to make ends meet and just to do what they need to do, and that's completely fine and okay. But nobody ever has a tenure at a crappy job. And those are the ones that are paying $9 and $10 right now. And you think people are like, oh, well, people don't want to work. No, you're too lazy to pay. And even more so, fourth side of the times, as we get to our last story, Bank of America is a prime example of that. Why? Because Bank of America hiked up its minimum wage to $21 an hour. So that means that as of now, they will be paying $21 an hour, which is 3 times the federal wage of $25. Again, that means that most people that work for Bank of America, your starting salary is going to be somewhere between $43,000 and $44,000 a year. Now, again, they still pledge to pay their workers a minimum wage of $25 by 2025, which is 4 years from now. But again, they have understood that, like, I hate to sound like that song that's out there right now, Bank of America understands the assignment that a lot of companies are going to have to start making that investment in people. Even JP Morgan Chase pays a minimum $16.50 to $20 an hour depending on the area's cost of living. Now, that's what they usually get away with. Wells Fargo's pays $15 and $20. But that's the thing. That's also another thing that employers get away with. They always go by, well, that's the market rate. The market rate that's determined by the cost of living. Really? Because let me tell you right now, I live in Tennessee, specifically Middle Tennessee, which has one of the, especially close to Nashville, which has one of the highest tax brackets in the U.S. Now, if we're going by cost of living, I should be making at least 20 or 30 grand more than what I'm actually getting right now. But again, that's the lie. The lie is, that's why so many companies want to move to Tennessee. Right to work, no unions, and at the same time, you are given as many tax breaks as you can muster. Worked for Volkswagen, worked for Saturn, when Saturn was making vehicles, worked for Nissan, because Nissan plant is still here, and now Ford, which they'll be moving their electric plant to West Tennessee, possibly Memphis. They don't come here just because it's the opportunity. They come here because there's profit to be made, and they don't have to worry about the overhead with workers in a right-to-work state. Again, it's going to get to a point where a lot of companies are going to realize you're going to have to wind up paying your workers. because saying that you're just an employee, you should be happy isn't cut anymore. It's going to get to a point where either we have to raise the minimum wage, and I still say it should be raised to $25 or more, because $15 an hour would be the lowest equivalent to somebody with no kids and a 1-bedroom apartment. And let's be honest, even at $15 an hour, you can't afford a one-bedroom apartment anywhere. So we will see what goes along, but kudos for Bank of America for trying to do the right thing, even though I can't stand that bank. So the last thing we got is our feel-good segment. Usually on How the Frack we got here, we cover a lot of things. Sometimes doom and gloom, sometimes make you lose your faith in humanity, sometimes make you want to have hiccups, like I got right now. But it is the middle of the week. We want to leave you out on a good note, leave you out to where, Friday Eve is coming, Thursday, and just, restore your faith in humanity, put a little pep in your step. And I love stories like this because I think that farming is one of those lost arts, and as there are multiple food deserts, and I can go into a whole nother situation with that, there are some generations that are trying to keep it alive, and I love this little girl's attitude on it.
We love to celebrate America's farmers here, and tonight the children determined to build the next great farms. Tonight in South Fulton, Georgia, 6-year-old Kendall Ray Johnson telling us she's been gardening half her life.
Hi, David. Welcome to my farm.
Giving us a tour of her own farm, her backyard.
Tomato. See?
And just listen to how proud she is of her bell peppers.
This is a bell pepper. You mean, it's amazing.
Dad Quentin doing the trimming.
This is my dad trimming some of the okra. Daddy.
Hi. Children all over town come over to learn how to garden.
I can pick one.
And the new honor, the state of Georgia honoring Kendall Ray for her work, officially naming her the youngest certified farmer in that state.
My garden is my favorite part of my house. I grow carrots and they are delicious.
And she's not alone. Children across this country determined to be the future farmers of America. In Wausau, Wisconsin, 500 fourth graders from D.C. Everest School District spending their days at Foosted Farms, learning from high school students.
Hi, David.
Fourth grader Haley Borkhart, just back from the farm.
I learned all about cows at the Foos farm. We got to see bunnies and horses and ducks. We got to pet the bunnies. Bye, David.
Little Haley sharing her love of gardening, of farming with Kendall Ray. And tonight, Kendall Ray's mother, Ursula.
Her mission is to meet new friends, make new things, and to inspire other kids.
Well, she's inspired us. Kendall Ray, Haley, all of our young farmers.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. Like I said, when I see kids like that, that makes me think that, you know what, future's going to be all right. Especially in that case where that little girl is loving farming, and you don't have to have a full-grown farm. If you got a little bit of land, or even in an apartment like mine, you can find ways to grow your own food, because honestly, that's what we need to start doing. We need to actually, which I said, once I'm finally able to get a home, it's that whole idea of I just want to have a greenhouse where I can, grow my own food, grow vegetables, grow apples and grapes and pears and things of that nature. I think that's good to actually have that, have that area to where you can do that. That's just my opinion. But anyway, with that being said, guys, that's going to do it for this podcast. So I do thank you all for watching, for commenting, for letting people know that this is uploaded because this is recorded. Before I do get out of here, I do a little shameless plugging. I do start to talk about my buddy Vaughn, Big BZA Dot, who usually has his Smoking Trailer Sundays every Sunday from 6:30 to 9. Of course, he has the REF podcast, like America's Funniest Home Videos, except done by Worldstar every Tuesday from 6:30 to 9. You can definitely check him out, Avon Westwood on Facebook or Big BZA Dot on socials. He also has his video game channel called Making Plays, which also broadcasts from Facebook. Definitely check him out when he goes live. Aside from that, let me shout out Ari and Gee present Geek Salad. Also can be found on YouTube and Facebook for also letting me join in on a lot of the things that they do. I certainly appreciate that, fellas. And finally, the link at the bottom, you copy and paste that into your browser, will take you to my link tree that has the YouTube and Facebook groups for all of my podcasts. How the Frack We Got Here, Get Bitten Off Lens Podcast. My IG, BlackFox447. Definitely follow me there, as I do like to post movies reviews, video game reviews, workout stuff, and inspirational stuff. But I try to be funny sometimes. I'm funny 8 out of 7, 7 out of 8. But I do try, but definitely follow me there. Also, guys, like I said before, the pandemic's still going on. If you got the shot, great. If not, go ahead and get it. And if you got the shot, see if you are eligible to get the booster shot, because right now we are doing our best to fight this pandemic off, and the only way we can do so is that everybody has to get on board. If you don't get on board, that's completely fine, but it's going to be harder for the rest of us because your choice affects all of us. So the one thing that you can do is just join us. It's not that hard, and honestly, what's your alternative? That being said, guys, last thing I'll say about how the Frack got here is all about staying informed. We're not trying to change minds or opinions. We are simply trying to do what the news stations of old try to do. Give you all the information, allow you to make up your own mind. Because we do a lot better when we're informed. We're progressive, we move forward, we change the rights and wrongs of our histories, and we do the things that should have been done a long time ago, like elect our first Madam Vice President who is black. Still hope for Michelle Obama in 2024 to bring her husband along. That being said, guys, thank you all for watching. If you watch this in the playback, please comment if it's live. I still want to know what you guys think about everything that we talked about. And also, if there's other stories or news that you want me to look into, because everything is definitely research, I will go ahead and do so. Please reach out to me at How the Frack Got Here on Facebook or on YouTube. Thank you all for watching, guys. Take care of yourselves, each other, and we will get through this. Peace.